Hello, welcome to the session. In this session, we're going to talk about density layer in click maps. So this is a part of series. So we have covered point layer, line layer, and map area layer. So if you're interested in those videos, you can watch that in the links in my channel. I'm gonna go share the link at the end as well, or you can just search that around my channel. Okay, so in this one we have a simple, very small data, not small actual 13,000 or rather 14,000 records for the different stores in different states. Okay, so when we plot these number of points, it become a lot of problem because it takes too much time and uh, we doesn't know exactly what's going on. So the best way to do present if we have such a large data number of points in a single point single layer or close by. So the best way would be to use the density layer to see that exactly how our data is behaving. So in this one, so let's get started. We have this density layer. I'm going to add the density layer, and in this one I'm going to use store ID as a dimension, and then as a location I'm going to use store location. Okay, so we have these points. So if you see where we have around 150, 160 points location, so it's more in white or in reddish phase, whereas where we don't have anything, it's more like bluish. And if I, just um, click in here and I can, drill in. As I drill in, so you will see that, these points are changing, and so that is showing me. But our data is actually populated all across US, but we are at the moment we are looking at a very small subset of the data. So what's happening? So let's just explore more properties in the data. So let's see exactly what is going on in our case. Okay, so let's go to the properties. So we next thing we have the location. We have the scope. Normally in this one, normally we're dealing the point, so we don't need to change the scope. But if we do, we can tell that exactly what this point is. If it's not longitude and latitude and which country it is, to make sure that uh, they get the point from a certain country. If you're more interested in this custom scope for the locations, please watch my video on area maps or the point map. I have explained that in detail. The next option that we have is weight in the radius. So the first I will talk about the radius. So if you see it says 30 packs and it's 0.5. So what does that mean? This particular means that any point, this is a dynamic calculation in terms when we say pixels. The radius unit is pixels. So if I zoom in, so this point if you see is from 156 to first it's 156. If I drill in, it has gone to 69, so it changes the maximum inference area. But if I have the option for meter, so this is the absolute scale. I have seen nothing because there is no point meters, five points which are 5 meters apart. So let's just make it a little more interesting. So let's say my scope is 60 kilometers. Now you see, even if I zoom, it doesn't changes exactly. It's actually going on the other side, but essentially it's fixed in terms of meters, and this thing is not changing. But if I have that in pixels, and I will go for 0.5, so you see pixel points dynamically. As I zoom in, these point changes, but if I have the meters, it fixed, it does not changes. So it basically take into fact what point I'm looking into. Pixel is dynamic on my zoom level, whereas meter is absolute. There is another option called weight by. So sometimes it can happen is that you just do not want to have the density by just number of stores. Maybe you want to say that where your most of the sales is happening. So you see, you weight it by sales, So it means that the area, it will not be number of stores, but it will be the sales amount happening, but still focused on the stores points. Okay, so the next thing we have option is we have is segment color, because this one is essentially density layer, which is based on number of points. It's kind of measured. It's already measured. There is no option for dimension. So we have segment color, which is on dimension. It shows that first dimension, first segment as 10, 30, 50. So we can switch that. Okay, what kind of a data, what kind of coloring we want to have. We can, let's say, change the coloring here as well. Let's say want to keep it red and the more darker shade of that. Okay, rather than having it white. So I'm just going to change that, and then we can add further layers, etc., limits, remove limits, and we can play around with that. So these limits are essentially this is less data, less number of points, so it's bluer, and as the number of points increases, so this is where the more data is. It's more denser. We have 104 points as opposed to roughly like 100 points in here. Okay, and we can control the opacity, and we can control the range of this density as well. It's better now. I can see in the background what exactly I'm looking at, and sorting option is not relevant in this one. And then we have the options. So this one is actually the interesting one. So currently, if you remember, we have 13,000 points, but I see it here maximum visible point 1,000. So that's why I'm not looking at all US map. I'm just looking at the small portion of that one. So okay, so let's just change this limit to 15,000. So let's see what happens now. It will take a little time though, but we will get all the US points. Okay, here we go. So we have all the US. So now most of the points are 580. We have most of them in here. And then this one is not that much populated, this particular part. So we see East Coast is much populated. Then we have some things in the middle, and then Southwest is not that much populated. As center south is not that populated, as center west, and then in the west we have some population in here. Okay, so we have the show layer option. This show layer option, we can hide that layer, but we can look at this one. For the end user, can just go in here and turn that on and off, and then we also have the options for influencing type of points, etc. We have this option in here as well. Okay, so here we go. So end user can change. For example, if we have meters, they can change the meters. If we have the packs, they can change it to the number of pixels as well, as per their requirement. Okay, so the next one I'm gonna go for. The next thing is with options that we see in here as exclude from zoom. So if we click in, it doesn't zoom on the selection, etc. And then we also have when this layer should be shown. Should it always be shown, or it should be shown on some zoom level, or it should be shown at some calculation? So we can control that, how it should be seen, when it should be seen, at what zoom level. We can do that. For example, I might want to say that okay, this layer should only show if we are selecting one country or one state, otherwise it should not show up. And similarly, we can say that okay, at certain zoom level it should show up. Okay, so I know that when I am too zoomed out, it doesn't make sense in here, but it should only be making sense when I am zoomed into the data. Okay, let's just do a little bit. So let's just zoom in this point. So you see it's dynamically changing because I have used the pixel one. If I have used the meters, so this shouldn't be changing them. Okay, and the next thing we have is the overall properties of the map. So we have the option to change the map. We can change the different type of maps, background. We have the option on map character. Excuse me. So this one related to we know that at the North poles, our lines are the imaginary lines, longitude and latitude. They are close by, so this basically take care of that. Adaptive adopts that, but Mercator take the absolute area, actually, not it does not care for that if the lines are close or not. And then we can choose the language in the background. It can be English, it can be local, or it can be auto. We can choose the between the Myers empirical and the metric, and then we can choose the type of selection that we want, and a default selection option. And then we have titles, etc. We have title, subtitle, and footnotes, what we can just put in here. And another interesting thing is, if we go in the presentation, in styling options, we can choose their style, or like what kind of a font it would be, bold, what kind of pixel it should be, what kind of a color we want it to be. Okay, and then we can change the state, alternate state, and then we can choose the legends. Should this legend show or not? This one. And if that shows where it should be right, top, left, etc. So we can choose those them where it should be shown. And then navigation. So navigation bar menu is essentially this one. So if we have turned that on, we can use zoom in and zoom out. And then we have location finder. This is I will just ignore that. It's not useful unless you're using a mobile application. Scale bar is this one, which should you want to show it or not. Then limiting zoom level, that this should maximum zoom level that can be achieved on this one. We can limit that. For example, if you do not want anyone to go to the street map level, so you can limit at certain level that okay, it should be zoomed at this level, for example. And in some cases you do not want to go to the country level, so level 6 is, I think, normally it shows lower at lowest level of, and like you see, it was at level 4. So as soon as I picked, made sure that it goes beyond that level. This is the maximum level, or minimum level of the zoom. It automatically adjusted itself. Okay, so for now I'm not gonna limit this one. And then we have the debug info. In the debug info, we see what kind of a map it is, its current situation, etc. And then if there is any issue, it also shows us that as well. And then label coloring, so we can see the label coloring. Should it be dark, the background is coloring, how it should be dark, it should be light, etc. So we can control this label coloring and this one. That's it for this one. Then still here, stay tuned, and do share your comments about this video. If you want have any questions, I would appreciate if you can add some comments in here. Thank you very much. Bye bye.